welcome back to the MLG World Final here in New Orleans, and we are finally ready to begin our first matchup of the tournament. It's going to be Evil Geniuses going against Monkey Business. Scottle guy here, but we got a new guest. We kicked out Merlini. We brought in Mr. Jacob Melk Talk Hansen. Melk, welcome aboard.
Thank you. You needed someone who actually knows what he's talking about.
Yes. And now we're both same height. You know, all we got to do is make sure we get rid of Nahaz next time. We weren't successful, though. Welcome back, my friend.
Not yet. Time will take care of that very shortly, I'm sure.
I got to ask you, Melk, if you weren't here to see Dota 2, would you be here to see some of these other matches? You never got to remember we have Smash, we have Call of Duty, Smite. I think they're playing Monopoly in the corner.
Monopoly, definitely. The Call of Duty scene is interesting to me. I haven't been at a Call of Duty event before, so I'd like to see what Optic Gaming is all about.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of people over there. It seems very hype.
It's very popular.
Not as hype, though, as this first match. Evil Geniuses versus Monkey Business. So let's go ahead, gentlemen, and break it down a bit. We could start, of course, with the boys in blue. Evil Geniuses, TI5 champions, of course, coming on top, looking the best in the world. But since then, things seemed a bit shaky. Now, we were there in New York. Yeah. We saw what they did. What the hell happened?
It's a bit of overconfidence in the fact that they hadn't really played the new version at all. I think they just went in thinking maybe we can pull off some of the same stunts that we've usually done, and maybe it's enough that we just practice in pops and so forth, whereas all the other teams, Vega especially in New York, had been playing out of their minds in everything they could get their fingers on. And it's sort of the same case with Monkey Business, so I'm still leaning towards favoring Monkey Business in this matchup.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky there. Now, how would you agree with that? I mean, they did have to go against Vega, who eventually won the whole thing, and as he said, was the most experienced, so you can't really just, count them out on that. But would you think that was just a fluke for EG?
I think so. I think we're going to see a different EG team in this event. And, PPD, who is one of those guys that he's always going to give you the straight answer about everything. And he was pretty frank when he came on the analyst desk. He said, look, we were unprepared and we didn't respect some of their heroes, particularly that Mag Broodmother. I don't think you're going to see the 4 offlaner strat anytime soon again from EG.
And they're a team that we know can adapt on the fly very well. They succeed in these kind of double elimination brackets.
Well, not so much on the fly, though, as you were saying, as it is in the double elim bracket. Yeah. So in recent history, or throughout the year, actually, every time we see EG and MLGs especially, they seem to drop the ball in game 1 and then come back through loser bracket or like beating teams with their backs against the wall. So even more speaking in favor of Monkey Business. And Monkey Business has been on fire in everything they've been touching. They just qualified for the major in Frankfurt. They obviously qualified for MLG as one of the 2 teams, whereas EG just got the automatic invite for being great.
Yeah, but even more than that, they're currently at the top of the group in the defense, and they've been able to beat all these huge teams. They've 2-0'd NIP 2 different times. They've beaten down the new Liquid squad at least 2 to 3 different times. They've looked very impressive. Do have to make the side note that Evil Geniuses didn't have to worry about qualifying for the Frankfurt Majors, so they had time to sit back and just really watch Monkey Business and strategize.
So while Monkey Business has been doing pretty well online against all of these, I'd go as far as to call them tier 2 teams. With all due respect to Ninjas and Pajamas and a lot of these other teams that Monkey Business has been playing against, they're not quite that top level that we'll be seeing at this tournament and at the major in Frankfurt. So they really have to prove themselves at this tournament. We've seen them up against Vega, for instance, where they actually lost. So some of the teams that Monkey Business do have problems fighting up against are these teams that actually do well on LAN.
Yeah, but you know what? The funny thing to me is a lot of people were saying the same thing going into TI5 about another team that Fly was also captaining, that being Complexity.
Yeah.
People were saying, look, all they can do is 5-man. They're going to get exposed at LAN. And they showed pretty well at TI5. And although Monkey Business isn't necessarily as obviously a 5-manning, a pushing team, they're the only team in 6.85 that's averaging 2 towers killed before 15 minutes. They're an early pressure squad.
We were saying before, they're a team that can really dictate the pace. They're tempo controllers. If they say it's time to go, without hesitation, they make the call and they jump in that opportunity here. So look at this, gentlemen. We've already got a draft underway, so we can push all that aside and see. But before we actually get to the nitty-gritty, who do you think is the matchup to watch out for? We got to remember, Mr. 8,000 MMR points. This is his first LAN appearance, and you are a man, Melk, who has been to many LANs from way back in the day. I mean, how far back do we have to go to think of your first LAN, and are there jitters there?
At my first LAN, there were no jitters because we knew we were the best team by far. It was MRM back then, and the best team was like some Swedish no-name team with Drage on it. So we had no concerns back then, but when I remember playing up against Mouse Sports once, where I did have some jitters, and I did an amazing juke on Poppy in the river, but that's a long story. Going back into this, I think it's going to be really interesting to see Miracle, and I want to see him up against a guy that's proven himself as this prodigy that
Yeah.
everyone expected him to. So I would love to see Miracle going in on the middle lane and playing up against Sumail. That's really what I want to watch. I hope that we get to see Miracle on the middle lane.
Definitely, definitely. It's very obvious that Evil Geniuses have done some research. They ban out the Wisp, which, you would think Big Daddy No Tail's a big Wisp player, but Crit also plays a phenomenal
It's
Wisp.
the most obvious ban up against, both up against a team like Monkey Business, where we know, like statistically, they've been the most playing Wisp team in the recent version. And then secondly, Peter Pandam has said this time and time again, they just don't play Wisp. Evil Geniuses do not play Wisp, so they need to ban it out. And that's, it's sort of a strategic weakness, because your opponent will always realize that they'll have to spend an initial ban on Wisp, and they will never pick it in the first pick phase because they don't play it.
Yeah, but Evil Geniuses starting off with a staple for them, that being the Universe Dark Series. 85 wins on this hero, by far the most played hero, and we are going to see both the Alchemist from Monkey Business, arguably kind of the hero that has just burst onto the scene in this new patch. A lot of teams adopting very different ways to run him during the game, and the Ancient Apparition, the classic C9 now, counter to the Alchemist. I really like this AA early phase. We've seen 1437 doing that. I think Evil Geniuses is going to have success with this pick.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of that, especially from Cloud9. It's just so nice if you do open with an AA, it does dramatically limit the hero pool, especially in this meta. You're talking about like Huskars, the Alchemist, obviously, and all these heroes, Wisp, let's say, all these heroes.
Generally speaking, it counters a lot of heroes. Like every healing hero, Shadow Priest as well, is a hero we've seen a lot. And then, as Nahas was saying, it's just a very natural counter to the Alchemist. And I want to go back to what he was saying about how you build this Alchemist, because it's very hit and miss with this hero.
Yes.
A lot of teams have just picked it, hoping for an easy win, going down, getting that bounty rune, and just farming up and everything. And that hasn't really been the case, because I don't think teams has yet to realize which of the builds are really the most successful ones.
So where are you on that, Milk? So the two major templates, right, just to set the table for people that may not know, are the early Solar Crest, the mid-alch, the more aggressive type, or the rushing into the Radiance. Which are you about here?
So for the teams playing in this tournament, I'll say there's two different builds that are worthwhile depending on what kind of team you are. For the Evil Geniuses lineup, I would definitely go for the straight Radiance. Play him on the middle lane, let Sumail play him, get that Radiance into a Manta style, into the, that typical hard carry role that just pushes out everything and can even afford just buying Garnet Scepters for everyone later on in the game if he wants to, just to utilize the gold gain. And then there's the other one we saw, especially Secret, doing a crazy interesting game in ESL 1 in New York, where they played the Alchemist with the Solar Crest build and built a straight Garnet Scepter for the Venomancer. And I think a team like Secret really benefits from that kind of playstyle, because they play a bit more early game orientated, whereas Evil Geniuses focuses more on the late game. So if Evil Geniuses had been playing the Alchemist, I would expect them to pick up the Farming Radiance build. And with Monkey Business, I'm not entirely sure, but I sort of hope that they go with that same build as well.
They have a lot of flexibility with the hero.
Sorry to interrupt. So far with Monkey Business in this patch, it has been exclusively No Tail playing on the Alchemist. So he's 3-0 in that role. Looked fairly confident in the hero. I would expect him to look to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, a team we also saw play it just earlier this week in the defense was Vega Squadron, played by no one, and that really fell through big time. They went for the Solar Crest build, then he went into a Blink Dagger, and I think the end score was 28-2 in favor of Arcade Power Rangers that they played up against. They got steamrolled. Magon had his textbook, his typical Broodmother pick, and then that Alchemist, they were looking to initiate with him, and it's not a good initiate hero in comparison to heroes like Earthshaker, Magnus, and so forth. So I really think you need to play the hero to its strengths and just utilize that gold gain, and then play him as the farming tank rather than anything.
Let's at least mention the Tusk, because we haven't gone there. Actually, 4 different players on Monkey Business have played that hero in this patch. Crit's the most common that you're going to see, but we've actually seen even Miracle play a game, as well as Moon Meander on the offlane Tusk.
That's so funny, because I remember looking that up and I'd be like, this Dota buff says that Miracle played Tusk. That can't be right. But I must have just missed that game. It's amazing to see that much flexibility within the team itself. Now, we've been boasting a lot about Alchemists. Now you're on the side of Evil Geniuses. How do you counter what this mid lane Alchemist is potential to bring? You could break even. Is it more having some influence, some supports to come by and give you the extra assists to boost up early? Do you get like a Queen of Pain? How do you battle that Alchemist in the mid lane?
I think what we've seen, so what we saw at them at ESL was spending too much time worrying about how to counter one hero. And I think, to me, when you're drafting, especially against a team like Monkey Business or against the old Complexity, you think more about countering a play style. You think more about how are you going to defend your towers? How are you going to deal with that mid-game pressure? I like the fact AA not only as a hero counter to the Alchemist, but as a counter to the play style, right? Stopping those early pushes, relieving some of that pressure.
Now look at this. You said that Big Daddy was the only one to play Alchemist here, but a Beastmaster comes out, and we know
it's
Big
another
Daddy
go-to hero we've
play
seen
the
Monkey
mid.
Business play a lot. So Big Daddy can of course play the Beastmaster. It's something he did a lot when he played for Secret as well, when he played this all-out support Beastmaster role. But lately it's actually been Crit who's been playing it a lot on a similar supportive role. It's a pretty good hero. What I don't like about the current lineup and how Monkey Business, or rather Evil Geniuses, already drafted them into sort of a corner is the fact that they have 3 melee heroes, of which 2 of them are likely to be in a supportive kind of role. The Tusk can be really abused on if he goes into the offlane role. And Evil Geniuses have 2 heroes that are pretty good against it, with the Darkseer and the Ancient Apparition. They're both really good against melee heroes when you go into a 5-on-5. And then, of course, the Spirit Breaker as the follow-up pick, another hero that I think is really good against melee.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we're going opposite directions here, Jacob, because I actually really like this Monkey Business draft. All 3 of the heroes that they picked so far can play in multiple positions, can play multiple tempos and multiple styles. I really like the fact that you can see Beastmaster in the mid. Moon has shown some confidence with that hero in the off lane. Alchemist could easily slide over that carry role, even though it's been No-Tail taking that hero so far, and 4 different players on that team playing Tusk. I think if you're Peter right now, you're really trying to figure out, trying to puzzle out how Monkey Business is going to arrange their lanes, even with the 3 melee heroes.
I don't think he's too worried, though. That's the whole point of it. I think Peter's really confident in what he's got to work with so far, and I think that his strategy, one thing that's interesting to note is that the Broodmother hasn't been banned, and it hasn't been picked either.
Yeah.
For EG, they had the Darkseer early on, so they have no real pressure going up against it. And for Monkey Business, I just think they feel there's other heroes that are much better, even though we have seen Moon play some Broodmother. So I really like the Witch Doctor pickup. It's a great support hero all around. It adds for good laning. It's good to take it away from Evil Geniuses because it combos so very well with the Darkseer.
Yeah, Peter's been on record talking about the Witch Doctor just as one of the highest utility heroes right now in the pool, and I feel like that's a good Monkey Business pickup. I really like the strategic option that the strategic options that Monkey Business has right now. I would like them. I'm a little bit worried about their scaling.
Actually,
I feel like if they go too late,
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I think Evil Geniuses has a lot better draft for the setup for the last picks, whereas Monkey Business, they already determined what their supports and carries / heroes right now. I hope that they play a Tusk support, where they'll go with the Beastmaster on the offlane and then pick into a late Queen of Pain, because Queen of Pain is pretty good right now. I fear Evil Geniuses might pick it up as well.
I would say so.
It also combos well with Darkseer. There's no Shadow Fiend in the pool. One thing I gotta sort of mention is that Peter must have a support hero in mind. Otherwise, he would have picked that up instead of the Spirit Breaker, because there was no risk for Monkey Business picking up that Spirit Breaker. So if he had wanted that Witch Doctor, he would have picked it already.
I agree with that. I was just trying to puzzle that out. And they're going to go ahead and go with the Anti-Mage. Man, I tell you what, Arteezy, this was not necessarily one of his core heroes early on in his career, but he has put up some huge farming numbers. EG showing much more of a 4+4 protect 1 kind of style here. Boy, oh boy, I think I'm coming around to your way of thinking, Mo. The big problem to me with the Queen of Pain pick, Queen of Pain is actually only about 42% in this patch as a solo mid. She's been much, much stronger. She's almost 60% as a safe laner.
That's the ban for Monkey Business. That would be a hero. They couldn't really pick her anymore, because Anti-Mage is just a pretty good counter to the Queen of Pain, because once she in 5-on-5s, once she lets off her combo, you know, he just mana breaks her and then all season kills her off basically. So also Monkey Business might already have settled on the Alchemist going for the mid lane. Yeah. And whereas EG is still lagging their mid hero.
What do you guys think about the pace of this game? We see different ways how people like to deal with the Alchemist, whether it's pushing for objectives sooner, but an AM pickup means that Evil Genius are happy to take this game into the long stretch, which Alchemist, you know, he could be a bit of a problem there. Is there any sort of conflict with that?
I think you're talking about it in the right way, because that's my big concern, that the AM is just a very well known as a hero that really doesn't hit that peak until 1 and sometimes even 2 items after the battlefield. You're talking about, early 20s game clock, right? Well, Monkey Business are averaging 2 towers killed before 15 minutes. Their EG is going to give up some resources on the map early with this lineup.
It really comes down to what they're putting Sumail on the middle lane right now, assuming that the Alchemist is probably mid. I'm still not convinced about it, but it comes down to this last pick, and it's really favorsome for Evil Geniuses that they get to pick Sumail's hero after knowing the entire Monkey Business lineup.
Yeah, I think you could go ahead and pick a mid hero actually right now for Miracle and run no-tail on the safe lane. They've shown that look a couple of times in their games, so I think you might see a Shadow Fiend, a TA, maybe even an Ember.
Shadow Fiend and Ember are both banned up, so it'll have to be a TA.
I like TA.
On Dire Side especially, right?
Yeah. He's also shown Necro.
Oh, the Jug. Okay.
That's going to be a big daddy Jug. This is a total swap around here.
Yeah, he's looked really, really good on
wow,
this hero.
no time.
That's a great pickup.
Wow.
It's like the natural pickup. It's the go-to hero right now. You pick the mag. It combos so very well with Darkseer and the Ancient Apparition, and then more importantly, Empower for the Anti-Mage. Yeah. It's amazing. Like EG's lineup is so strong through and through. It has all the synergy they need. It has the better 5-on-5. I'd even go as far as to say it has the better late game just because it's an Anti-Mage, and I think it's better than the Alchemist, even though the Alchemist has the farm advantage. But that Empower just puts him over the edge.
I don't know. We've just seen Monkey Business so comfortable playing this style. We've seen Big Daddy's little things like Big Daddy's micro on the healing ward have made a huge difference in their games. I actually really like their chances in this game.
And they do have the Witch Doctor as well, probably one of the best supports going into the late game. So yeah, I'll agree with you. The Monkey Business definitely have all the cards they need to deal with the Anti-Mages, also with the ultimate from Tusk and the ultimate from Beastmaster. They're both lockdowns that can work really well against him, but they probably have to spend them on either Magnus or Darkseer as well.
Yeah, but what a draft, right, guys? I mean, this is going to be strength versus strength. What a way to open our games here this weekend.
The strategy's out there, gentlemen, but it also comes down to the execution. Will Miracle, the 8K MMR kid, falter in his LAN debut, or will he succeed? We'll find out in just a moment. To take away the action, we're going to throw it over to Toby1 and Merlini. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Toby1 here with the wonderful Benwari Merlini, as we're here to do what I know a lot of people are classing as the greatest game of the day. EG up against Monkey Business. Monkey Business, I don't want to say they're coming as a favorite into this game.
Maybe tiny bit.
A tiny bit.
Tiny bit.
Like I know people have been having the big discussion about EG. Oh, they lost ESL. The 2-time Broodmother was run against them, and things didn't really go right for them there. But at the same time, it was a smaller tournament after they just won the largest prize share of the $17, $18 million worth of a prize pool. It happens. So I think that's the best way to look at it here. But Monkey Business have been posting some really, really good results online of late.
I really like this dichotomy of strategies that we're seeing from EG and Monkey Business. EG has massive team fight. If AA gets level 6, Matt gets an early blink dagger, it's going to be very hard for Monkey Business to push into any sort of those towers and reach that 2 towers per 15-minute mark that Nahaz was talking about earlier. But on the side of Monkey Business, they have...
They're already going to start this bit of a fight. A big cluster over that bottom rune. They do not want to give up the 100-100 rune. And you got Arteezy in there a little bit too far. Blinked himself away to safety out to the tree line. The PPD will be the first one down for Evil Geniuses. Monkey's claiming that on the back of the Juggernaut, and they will be pausing for the lights, as it appears the lights actually did something for the players. That's not a great thing in the world. But Alchemist was able to pick up that first 100-100 rune. So he's already got the bottle coming out to him, and he's in a very, very good position.
Yeah, Monkey Business's lineup is really good at pushing early towers, and as long as they can dodge AA ultimate, I think they can actually just straight tank Magnus ult up until maybe 25, 30 minutes in the game when Anti-Mage gets a little bit stronger. They have Healing Ward, they have Voodoo Restoration, they have Inner Beast, and they have the Sustain from Chemical Rage. That's a lot of just sustain to constantly push down towers, so on and so forth, and take an early Roshan. So I think EG is going to be up against the rails for the first 20, 25 minutes of the game, and this is already a terrible start for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm actually kind of surprised that EG were drafting into this kind of position. The one thing they're going to heavily rely on, you're talking about all this heal, all this sustain, is the Ancient Apparition being an early level 6.
That is the key.
You need to be able to get him up to having that Ice Blast available. And it's PPD trying to find space on the bottom lane when Arteezy, he's going up against a dual lane. So his Beastmaster as well as Tusker going to make his life a living hell. He's only got the basic Stout Shield with a couple of tangos. And those consumables won't really be enough because he's always going to have that risk of just getting sharded or axed and just zoned out of the lane. I would normally say Snowball, but not as effective up against an AM.
I mean, look at him right now. He's just trading hits with the Tusk. He's not even able to come up the creeps, and 0-0 CS for Arteezy on the anti-mage.
I also want to see how middle lane's going to go. Like, it hasn't been the greatest time for Samel's Magnuses, which I remember. And going up against Alchemist, he is like the hero of the current meta.
He's played Magnus a lot, though. I remember playing against him in in-house leagues, and it was a lot of Magnus when Magnus wasn't even that popular at the time. And unfortunately, he's going to have to blow a lot of regen because he does have to sit in the acid spray if he wants to CS at all. He does have a slight damage advantage with the level 1 Empower and maybe more kill potential, but he's going to have to just ferry over a lot of regen or control runes, which you want to do anyways versus the bounty rune.
I'm kind of surprised about his build for this. Like, he went for Empower, you're right, but he was also sitting on his second level for a while, maybe wondering if he needed to have Skewer instead of farming with Shockwave.
Well, sometimes you have a kill opportunity with Skewer, sometimes someone might rotate in like Tusk, and you don't want to get trapped in with the shards if you commit to the level 1 Shockwave. Or on the flip side, maybe there's like 2 hits that might get denied if you don't have the Shockwave. And seeing the early rune control, Alchemist not able to get another bounty rune yet, so that's really, really good.
He's perfectly all right with it though. Like, okay, yeah, you give up the bounty rune, but you get an Invis rune onto this Alchemist. And he's already been able to get so much CS, and actually,
he's
not
losing
really.
to
Yeah, he's actually lost out in the CS. He's 6-2 now. Bottom lane, your Snowball goes after Anti-Mage, but it's mere intimidation. And it's not really that intimidating when you think about it, because you've got Artur back behind his tower. He's got the Ancient Apparition there, which probably zone out most of the heroes. Now, middle lane Concoction, Sumail getting set up a little bit, but Sumail's having a great time in his lane, and it's the classic universe off lane now as the Darkseer, with the extra help coming in from Fear on that Spirit Breaker. You got a 15-0 Darkseer. These are not the lanes, or at least the positions of the lanes I was expecting from Monkeys. I was expecting them to have more lane presence. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, shutting down the anti-mage is somewhat important, but I think shutting down the supports is far more important, as well as the early blink dagger on Mag, because the anti-mage can always catch up, especially with Empower. You can farm Ancients super easily, well before a normal time where you would have to generally wait until your Vlads to actually take those out. So yeah, I think this early game is progressing very well for EG.
Yeah. And Monkey's got to do something about it, but what else do you really do apart from passively sit in your lane and farm?
Well, you need to dodge a Spirit Breaker gank, so you need to keep the AA from being able to chain pull like he's currently doing right now. And they do have that Observer Ward to stop the chain pull, so that's actually very useful for them. PPD just dropped the Sentry Ward and was not able to find that.
It's barely out of range. And this top lane is still going ham. How are you meant to come down and do anything about this lane when you can just have an SB charging into you, potential bash chance as well, and you throw a high-level Iron Shell up on him?
You got Spin. Miracle is going for the max Spin build, which is really good versus the Ion Shell, especially potentially double Ion Shell, and Fear systematically checking the runes every 2 minutes to, again, ensure that Big Daddy does not go out of control with those. And another bounty rune for the way of EG.
Yeah. Denied again. It's a double damage rune coming in for the Alchemist. Normally he's admitted to be very happy about this, but...
And we already see him commit to one of the builds. Looks like it's going to be an early Medallion and likely early pressure, early tower pressure, as opposed to trading farm with Anti-Mage and trying to single him out later, perhaps with the...
Oh, nice. Skewer in the mid, but Sumail's going to get stunned up pretty heavily. He's got no other way to control the Alchemist, and with a level 3 Shockwave, Alchemist needs to be a little bit lower for Sumail to get that kill, but does at least keep Alchemist on his toes when he gets skewered back behind the base like that. Bottom lane, in comes your charge, coming in from Fear, and they're right on top of the Beastmaster. No way to get back out again, and that will be a kill going the way of Arteezy.
Very nice from Fear, TPing and helping out his team and alleviating pressure from Anti-Mage. It's a dual melee lane. It's not able to actually pressure that much because they have the one range in the lane, and let's see what build he went for. The 1-2 build on the Beastmaster, trying to help with those boars, but they can only do so much versus a poor man shield
This
anti-mage.
observer ward that's just behind the tree on the bottom rune, that's actually made it so much easier for them to scout out this Tuskar rotation. And with it too, you have PPD arrive. The snowball will start, gives him the extra movement speed to get himself out of the cold feet, and it will be a simple run away to safety.
Do we see any stacks on either side? I see one stack on the Dire side, but I don't think they're even concentrated on that at all, trying to pressure the lanes and get a lot of experience and farm that way.
Well, Monkeys can't drag anyone out of the lane. Like, you see what happens to Miracle. He's really not wanting to spin, but a double Iron Shell drops him so low. Witch Doctor has to stay here. Even if he is just a walking Voodoo Restoration, it's still worth it.
Once he's level 5, he can probably spin the double Ion Shell waves and be a lot more efficient in that manner. But it's up to Monkey Business to have the first moves, I would say, to try and take down towers, try and shut down Anti-Mage, and if they just let EG free farm and get Anti-Mage level 6 into Blink, it's going to be really bad.
Alchemist, he's able to actually get that bounty rune, so at least he's able to get that extra gold and everything else, but PPD as well as Fear. PPD actually a little bit too deep here. Fear can't charge up, and now, well, in comes Samael looking for the RP. Can't lock two of them together, so he's going to just hold on to it for now, as he's already lost his captain. They'll just fall back. The save would have been a perfect skewer into a double RP, but the timing just wasn't right for him.
Tusk did a really good job of holding on to a snowball. If he just released a tiny bit earlier, I think they would have gotten a double RP, and that was without the Alchemist ultimate in that particular fight. So still holding on to the early game. Bounty Rune able to help his Dire team out with a 1,500 gold lead at this point, even though they're slightly behind in terms of CS. And I think we actually see a lot more stacks out on the Radiant side.
Got to make sure they can hold on to them, because they don't really have the greatest clearance. Like, you do have the early level up in power, so if you do move RTZ over, he can flash farm that up a little bit better.
Ion Shell should be more than sufficient. We already see a charge coming out on Moon, and there is an Observer Ward over there, but I might see him a little bit too late.
The pings are coming out from Ancient Apparition, so well, there it is, they'll see it. And on the snowball, Tuskar's too far away. Actually gets bumped once, but they don't complete the charge in.
They have vision behind these two during nighttime. I'm very surprised they didn't go on that.
Yeah, ditto. Like, maybe because there's no Iron Shell and a Spirit Breaker, but he's going to charge in again.
It's good enough. It's two melee heroes. You're going to take a lot of damage, and the Chilling Touch makes their armor relatively useless, and the Icy Vortex makes it very difficult to kite them.
They might have been a little bit concerned about Mango Poppage from Beastmaster. Maybe Moon was just going to turn around and roar on him. But I suppose even if you roar, where's the follow-up damage? It's not really there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really think that there's enough damage for Monkey Business to convert that.
We've actually got the build. So you were talking about Solar Crest in for the Alchemist. It looks like he's still going to go in for the Radiance build.
Casual
I have seen a
Sage.
couple of Alchemists do this casual Sage's Mask, because it's just the extra mana pull. Sorry, mana regeneration on top of having the
I've seen it in the safe lane, but in the mid lane, that's a lot more rare because you have access to the runes.
But maybe it's just because he also got a good chain worth of CS out in that mid. And you didn't get a lot at the very, very start. You pick up the Sage's Mask, like, okay, things aren't really going terrific, but now he's up to 5.2k net worth, this Alchemist, 3.3k in the gold.
If you commit to like a Solar Crest early, it's far more all-in than going for the Radiance. Radiance, okay, even if you fail one or two pushes, you can always fall back, and especially with all their heroes, giving Axe to Witch Doctor, giving Axe to Juggernaut even is pretty darn good, and I think they pick these heroes with that in mind, that if the early game doesn't go the way we want, and if they don't give us a big lead, we can always just fall back on stacks and kind of take over what Anti-Mage wants to farm. And Anti-Mage is generally viewed as a carry that can peak very early, but I think Alchemist is actually probably the only hero that peaks earlier than Anti-Mage and can farm faster than him at a pretty sizable difference.
As long as he can find space in the lane, you'll be able to peak faster than anyone when you're getting so much extra gold for every single kill you get.
Yeah, that's a Relic coming out, 10 minutes.
At the same time, we do get the Blink Dagger also on Samael. So I'm wondering now, is this the time in which EG looks for? I'm not seeing the level 6 over on PPD yet, so I still question the timing. But Universe has managed to find a lot of levels on this top lane, and they need to start making a little bit more space for Arteezy. Drag the attention away from the core of EG so Artur can just start farming harder.
Yeah, you just need to get some kills, and they're going to have, I guess, a tiny window in between the Mag Blink and the Radiance, but that's... You only can realistically get like 1 or 2 kills in that time frame unless Monkey Business overcommit to something, which they seem very unlikely to do given the pace of the game.
I think there's now 4 bounty runes in a row for the Alchemist. After being denied the early ones top lane, there's a blink forward. Not in range for an RP, but that shockwave does a lot of damage to Skylark. And it's also just that bonus movement speed from the haste rune. But now Sumail feels like he's a little bit too deep in. The charge is still coming in on the Witch Doctor, and that is where you'll see Fear going in deeper. They get the blink shockwave kill over on the Witch Doctor. The restoration taken away, but the healing ward from Miracle is still up until finally they'll drop it down. He'll spin himself out this one, but can he get far enough away? Charges back off cooldown again. So there it comes forward as she's switching over to Tuskar, even getting the extra bash and the run out of here. EG just diving in deep. They'll have to wait for the snowball to complete here, but it's coming over to Sumail. Just one punch, and there it will be. 3 heroes down for Monkey on the top, and the T1 tower taking a large chunk of damage.
Yeah, they just got run over by the Mag
run
Blink.
that mid lane too. Sumail, he's got a skewer up. He's actually going to just TP in and take out the Alchemist, who was trying to aggressively push into the tower.
That's crazy. Mag was able to hold on to his spells for so long. He even Blade Fury'd the RP, but it didn't matter in the end of the day. They had so much damage coming out.
Bottom lane, Anti-Mage is in trouble. Can't blink away in time. Blink was actually on cooldown for Arteezy. So it was the Roar plus Paralyzing Cast Control in combination with the Death Ward, which gave them the extra damage they needed.
Still big momentum swing for EG. Sumail making very good plays with his blink and his skewer. It's not really viewed as a traditional Sumail hero, but when you have an anti-mage, you don't really need him to scale as well as his normal repertoire.
But it works beautifully as a Sumail hero. Like Anti-Mage, like Soul Spirit with his play on that, it was always amazing to watch his control, his exact like mechanic precision.
I mean, if you have good coordination, you don't even need to hit good RPs because you can just follow up after vacuums.
Here they go again, Surge and Skewer missing it just by an inch. The charge will still come in from the Spirit Breaker, and they do have a lot more control here with the Shockwave, but the Snowball dodge moving back in onto SB, and then the Cold Feet forcing Moomiander to walk himself away from the rest of EG. And just a defensive wall committed from the Dark. He's only level 1, so it's more of an intimidation factor than anything else.
And PPD still struggling to get level 6 even after that chain of events on the top lane. Also going for a different build, the 3-1-1, probably because they're so melee heavy, although Juggernaut can easily spin out of it, and there's a Tusk snowball coming out of it. And I think the 1-1-1 into like a 1-4-4 or even a 0-4-4 like we saw in 6.84 is still generally the best build for AA, even though Cold Feet did get buffed a tiny bit in the patch.
We've got a smoke rotation coming out from Monkey. What are they actually going to find? So they'll see the Dire Courier. Choice is not to kill it because it reveals the fact that Anti-Mage is here. And now if Anti-Mage gets a little aggressive, it's going to roar. Yeah, it's the roar to start with, and then into the Death Ward. The Snowball control will ensure that Arteezy stays exactly where he is. And this is making the gap between Arteezy. Like he's still under 4K net worth as, yeah, my bad. Juggernaut's going to drop. But he's 4K net worth, and you're looking at a 7.2K in the Alchemist, and this is now about to be an 8K Alchemist too.
What happened to Juggernaut's items? He has 63 CS, which is very close to the Magnus, but he is super poor.
It's the 2 deaths.
Yeah, I think at this time it's...
It keeps him at the same level as the Anti-Mage, and even then, like, Arteezy's going for this, like, I don't say hybrid build.
I mean, maybe Miracle isn't used to dying that much as a safe lane player because he's not spending his gold. Generally, you'll see a player buy treads or a Sage or drums to kind of stop the hemorrhaging, but he is going to have a tough time catching up to the Anti-Mage.
He has one advantage. That's the fact this tier 1 tower does drop. And Monkeys is going to start to come online with this big group push that they can get. Now, they don't really have... Well, they don't have the mech behind it, but they do have the level 1 Necro buff, which is now arrived for the Beastmaster. And that's going to be where Monkeys can find a lot more power in their fights. I'm wondering, too, how long it's going to take before we go into Roshan. It looks like the Witch Doctor, he's looking for that medallion build-up. And that's probably going to be the timer we're waiting for.
Ideally, you want the mid T1 down by that time, but Miracle looks like he's going to die again, gets bashed.
He will get bashed again. Ice blasted up, so we do have that level 6 back in, and the wall damage goes into the Omni Slash with the Shockwave. Arrives perfectly for Sumail. In the middle lane too, Arteezy. They just keep hunting him. They don't find the kill, but they'll find the tier 1 tower. Fortification or not, this will be a tier 1 tower gone in the mid.
I actually think that's a good trait for Monkey, even though generally losing your carry for a tower is not very favorable. With the way that Miracle has had an impact in this game, I think it's completely okay. He did end up buying treads, which is decent if you're actually killing people, but right now he's kind of the meat shield, and they'll be focusing down on him a lot, especially with the AA Blast, which you can't rely on the healing ward to sustain you through that.
Still love how Monkeys do this. So you take out these early tier 1 towers and you instantly put down aggressive wards. One inside the lane and the other one just watching over the jungle area. And EG have kind of skipped over that ward. In fact, if you actually look over, they've got one watching on still in the bottom lane to see when TP support comes in.
Looks like they're grouping up for a smoke on Radiant.
See that now, they're just trying to protect our TT while he does the Ancients.
Yeah, he still has to be very, very careful. Even if they see Alchemist on the map, they can BOT onto a Hawk and roar into an unstable concoction, and he'll die if Alchemist is decently farmed. So he's nowhere close to out of the woods yet. I mean, look at his items. He's still not that close to Battle Fury.
Give him time. That Hawk scouting out Universe. Universe also probably didn't see that as it was up inside the tree line. At least some of the vision's being removed, but Monk is just, like, they're just sitting here and keeping EG just throttled almost, while Miracle is now playing the catch-up game inside of his own jungle.
They can take Roche. They need someone to spot out a potential smoke gank, though, in case they RP and AA ulti inside of the pit. But it looks like they smoked and it was just outside of the vision, but they have such deep wards planted that it should be fairly, you know, their sensors are going to go off very soon.
Especially when your board takes damage from an Iron Shell. As they walk past him, and they blink forward in. Sumail goes for the RP over onto the Ice Boss coming into, skewing them almost out of range, but it will still be the Beastmaster and the Witch Doctor dying, as the rest of Monkeys, they're not actually arriving. In fact, it's Alchemist, as well as the Tusker, is trying to retreat the Vacuum Universe, dragging Notel back in closer, and then again Sumail with that shockwave timing. The Mana Void is available, but they haven't burned off enough mana off this Tusker. Another charge just to slow him down, and there it is, a triple kill for Sumail. And this will be a tier 1 tower. Finally, EG get to answer that one back in the mid, and Miracle never arrived. He had no real reason to come anyway, because what use would he have been? I'm
surprised they didn't sense that smoking out, though, because it's like right when RP was about to refresh, and they had very deep wards as well as the Hawk. So when that much of the map is empty, and all their ultimates are up, you generally won't go for a play like that. And even the Roshan attempt was kind of ill-conceived. They had the Beastmaster and the Witch Doctor in there, which isn't enough damage yet, even with the Necros too.
Yeah, it's not something I was expecting to see coming out from Monkeys today. You expect them to come in, it's like, okay, our game plan is this, but it's almost a little indecision. Like, the Juggernaut's not ready to come, like, when do you go?
I think the play style from the European teams that they have been facing haven't been this very team fight, cooldown dependent style that was not popular at all in 6.84 just because the games were so much faster paced. And now that teams are relying on a very farmed Alchemist to win the game, you can actually just commit a lot of big ultimates because they aren't looking to fight at all. And then you just look to overpower them every 2 minutes, every 3 minutes, whenever you want to take a fight. And there's very little chance of you losing a fight when you have RP and Vacuum Wall and AA Ultimate at your disposal. And even then, their lineup scales fairly well into the late game because Spirit Breaker still has good lockdown versus BKB, as well as Magnus and AA. So they're kind of BKB proof.
Monkeys trying to find the perfect timing to gank up on TZ, but it was just such obvious bait. Now EG are, in fact, going to slip themselves over towards the pit. And that's where Monkeys have to make a decision. Like, do they try and come and defend this? Because they're grouped up inside their own jungle.
Well, we see an RP on bottom committed to Alchemist and AA Blast along the way. Charge to give vision and another
That's
death.
really problematic because the charge has switched itself over to the Spirit Breaker. So snowballing up to try and protect himself at the moment. And then there's that move over as well. Tusker just getting done by the Mana Void. And this will be the tier 1 tower on bottom lane, also going the way of EG.
They've lost all control of the bottom half of the map now.
Yep.
And Miracle, I would say, has been very useless in this game. Struggling to farm early versus the Darkseer, getting picked off a couple of times and not really able to convert any Omni Slashes into kills because he doesn't have any damage, as well as Darkseer having an early mech. Darkseer is 2,000 gold above the Juggernaut. That is actually incredible, the discrepancy in between the two sides on the Dire safe lane.
It could just be the effect too of the, okay, Moon. Universe won't be there for the Vac, even though Sumail was having a look for him. It could just really be the effect of the fact you are running the Spirit Breaker and Darkseer dual off lane, but Monkeys picked into this. Like, the Juggernaut was their last pick. They knew what they were going up against. They had to understand this would be a dual off lane. But they
or at least a potential for it.
Yeah, potential for it. But what else would you really have done? Like Animage as well as AA on the bottom.
I think they really needed a ranged hero or someone who fares a little bit better versus the Darkseer. But there aren't that many choices, right? You have Lifestealer, who you don't necessarily want in your lineup versus this much anti-BKB. There is an anti-mage who's already on the opposite team. PL is a thing that some people turn to sometimes, but it's also not very good versus anti-mage. And then your typical range carries, your Gyros, your Lunas are not going to have that much sustain, nor are they going to have a stout shield versus this, heavy bruiser like the Spirit Breaker in the front line. So their options were pretty limited, but having 4 melees versus like all this massive AoE is going to hurt your laning phase as well as your team fight potential all throughout the game.
4 melees also versus up against RPs and cleaves and Darkseer Vax. The ability to get yourself away and still do damage during the fights is so difficult. So now Monkeys, they'll try and give this a shot.
I think it's going to happen too quickly, though. It's already half HP.
Out.
They need AO
the
right now.
Is coming in. This will cause real troubles for them, and well, the Shards block is coming down, the Ice Blast does connect, and it's still Miracle as well as Beastmaster. The Juggernaut and the Beastmaster inside, they use the spin early on, but now EG will arrive. The Witch Doctor has gone down, but Juggernaut has the Aegis, the Immortal, but is this really going to be enough when they back him up? Okay, that's not where you really want to be, Samel, but it's still going to work as he 4-staffs down. Miracle actually switching places. He's pushed up on the cliffside. Can't get himself down because the Omnislash was already used and he's caught up on the hill.
Oh, they found him with Icy Vortex. He doesn't have a TP scroll. He's going to die twice after they pick off Alchemist.
Now they're going in deeper after the Alch, but then again, how much have you got? PPD can't finish this job. He's trying to with the Ice Blast. Miracle will shatter here. There's no doubt about that one as PPD just trying to beat into him. There's your Shockwave.
They know there's no way he can get off that cliff, though.
Are they going to skewer up into that?
They just right-clicking down with the range hero, honestly.
Okay, that's one way to do it.
And at this point, it's, I mean, I don't think that Monkey Business can kind of recover from this mid-game deficit where they're just getting crushed in every single fight. That's the kind of Roshan attempt I was expecting from them the first time. 4 heroes inside with a Hawk outside to scout as well as 1 hero to pop the smoke. And they incurred 2 pretty heavy team fight losses before that, and now that EG are much stronger off the back of those, I think that Monkey Business were actually retaining a gold lead before that, but fighting a team fight with poor positioning inside the Roche pit is just disastrous.
Invis set up for the Magnus. Now, he's still got enough as he 4-stars forward. Does he really want RP? Yeah, you can catch out 2 on that one. The Witch Doctor included. The Shockwave is off cooldown again, so it's a very simple, just 1 more punch, and that'll be it. The Witch Doctor will drop. And Samael's now 10-0-5 on this Magnus. You said he was practicing it a hell of a lot. His first appearance as Magnus was probably the first impression kind of style. It wasn't really the greatest game from him, but you're seeing right now he definitely knows how to handle this hero.
Beyond godlike.
It's looking good, man. It's looking good. The Spirit Breaker with his Shadow Blade as well.
I actually still can't believe how poor Miracle is.
How is he? Like it's. Well, you are losing most of your map. This push lineup never really came online, and the Alchemist took a lot of the farm.
Yeah, but Juggernaut's still a good early fighting hero. He's kind of like a melee version of Gyro with a Rocket Barrage, and he has really good sustain with the Healing Ward.
But he couldn't fight up against the Spirit Breaker and the Darkseer.
It seems like the laning stage was way too difficult for him.
And the first rotations never really worked as well for Monkey, because where was that? Like, there was nothing. Like the Juggernaut's first Omnislash he used was in vain. He still ended up dying. It was this escape mechanism potential on the top, and Samel shot him down with a Shockwave directly after he used it.
And now we see a Shadow Blade already come out on a Spirit Breaker, so no one's really safe, and I don't think they can afford to buy sentries at this point or pop random Necro 3s. And they're going for a smoke, but it was under the guise of charge, so EG are completely aware of what's going on for Monkey Business.
Man, that was also, like, Fear was going to pull out of that. Like he was charging in, but there was nothing else there. Yeah, Arteezy's in a little bit further, but they're not going to find anyone on this.
And it's just weird how they kind of developed a strategy. I think with a Juggernaut pickup, who's not like your ideal late gamer, especially versus an anti-mage, you'd want to play a lot more aggressively in their early game, but they never really got that chance. And you need to create space for the Alchemist. You can't have your carry farming as well as your Alchemist trying to farm for the first 15 minutes of the game. You're just going to lose out on all sort of map control and fights because you're fighting 3v5. But maybe once Alchemist gets his Octarine, they can actually just avoid fights by pushing out all the lanes.
Yeah, that's actually where I was going to head with that, because I'm looking at this Alch, and you understand what Alchemists have done so many times in so many games over the last week or two. And when you got the Octarine core up with the BTs, the Radiance, and the Mana style, your split push is just crazy.
Yeah, but generally it comes out, I think with Free Farm, maybe around 20 minutes, and it's going to come out like 7 minutes after the normal timing, and everyone else is just dirt poor. The Net Wars chart, yeah, sure, Alchemist is 5,000 ahead of Anti-Mage, but Anti-Mage probably can still just straight win a head-on man fight with
so maybe maybe this is a better question then. How does Monkey's high ground defense work? Is it enough to repel EG?
They don't have any wave clear. They just have Beastmaster Wild Axes as well as the Acid Spray, but that's not really that much.
See, that's what my question is. It's
you can just RP two heroes and win a
fight. Long
fight.
enough that the Alchemist can make the most split pushing, and can he even do that?
I don't think he can split
Spirit
push.
Breaker on the field.
Yeah, there's a Spirit Breaker on the field as well as the Anti-Mage to push out the lanes, as well as an Alchemist, or sorry, an Ancient Apparition who can also push out the lanes and still contribute to the fight.
So at this point, we're eliminating almost every option that Monkeys has.
Yes, and Sumail also went for a Boots of Travel, which is really bad for Monkey Business because he can just kind of mirror the Alchemist's movements around the map and just follow up whenever Spirit Breaker sees an opportunity.
I love Sumail's build as well. Like, we already saw him using that Blink Fall Staff to get these easy chase kills, but now having a Shiva's Guard as well. We talked about the 4 melee heroes being on Monkey's lineup where they have trouble just playing up against EG's lockdown teamfight control lineup. But you add a Shiva's Guard to this as well, they're going to get completely slowed. There's no way to run away. And you've got movement speed bonuses kicking in for EG as well.
Yeah, you can see
everything's starting to rack against
Monkey's
him.
Mentality is changing. They're like, okay, we just have to get a farmed Alchemist. So now they buy a gem on the Witch Doctor, they de-ward, they try and play a little bit safe, but Spirit Breaker still provides vision that won't be obscured by the gem. Witch Doctor is not like he's going to be out in the front all the time to try and stop him. And even if you have to like stop him, you're still going to be very vulnerable to the RP or even like Blink Vacuum into Blink RP.
Yeah.
So there's not really a good way for them to go about the fights. Maybe they can like scout out the mag with a Hawk and then try and stop him from blinking, but with a good use of smokes as well as the Force Staff already up on Magnus, it's very unlikely that they're going to walk away without heavy casualties.
EG's already coming for another smoke move. So yeah, Monkeys just go for the better trade-off. Octarine is now done for the Alchemist.
Is this the kind of game that you expected out from Monkey Business, though? This kind of strategy?
Well, actually, in a way,
There's a big fight happening.
But yeah, the bottom lane is where it's all going to start off. The Beastmaster's already down. You will have the Paralyzing Cast causing a couple of problems for EG on the chase. But if you go in further, you're going to find Sumail up here in just a moment. Well, actually, no, for the bonus, it's going to be the Spirit Breaker. Now RTZ's also in the mix, but it's going to be the death of the Tuskar. And yeah, good luck to Monkeys. But no, this is not what I was expecting from them. I was expecting better laning phases, and then it would go into a normal Monkeys game. But the laning phases just crippled them so hard.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily like the Beastmaster +1 in the off lane. Like a lot of times you'll see Beastmaster, especially by mag, it's just kind of complete sack, so you can win the other 2 lanes.
So
it still occupies
like a better top lane if you had the Witch Doctor move up and help out and try and push back.
Witch Doctor is not even that great just because they still have 2 melees up there, right? Or Witch Doctor was already up there. You'd have to move the Tusk, right?
Oh, yeah,
so
sorry, Tuskar. My bad.
It'd be Tuskar and Juggernaut versus 2 melee heroes with Ion Shell. So they had to, I think, zone them out at level 1. You can't have them rotate in, but because by the time you'll get there, they're already level 2, and you have an Ion Shell Spirit Breaker just beating on you, and you're going to lose every right-click trade in that department. So I agree that the safe lane was a little bit too weak. I didn't expect it to lose this hard, though.
No.
And I didn't expect that. I don't think that Monkey expected that it was going to lose this hard. And Miracle is just trying to catch up wherever he can. He's been involved in 1 kill, and Alchemist is always with his team because they're so weak that they need the protection of the big bad Alchemist to even stand a chance of winning a team fight.
I'm actually wondering too where he's going with this second item. So he's got himself a point booster at the
This
moment.
Ags.
Is this when you start to buff up and you say, you know, like, what do you do? Like,
Witch Doctor Ags is probably the best chance of winning a team fight.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking.
Like Beastmaster Ags is like, you're not going to get 2 roars off in a team fight. Tusk Ags Walrus Kick is, yeah. Juggernaut doesn't do enough damage for Omni Slash to be that useful, even with an Ags.
Yep.
So that leaves Witch Doctor, which...
But they need to get him an extra level, like a
Yeah,
level
they
1
need
death
level 11.
It's the Ags upgrade might be great, but it's not going to be enough for him. Unless he's considering something else, but... What else would you even want to do with a point booster at this point of the game?
Also, a big problem with that is that Mag can kind of drag the fight away from the Witch Doctor, because they can just skewer him away, and Witch Doctor either has to move in to follow the skewer, or he has to just stop it way earlier, or they have to somehow disable the Magnus from being able to cast a skewer, which seems pretty unlikely. So even with like a perfect setup, it still seems unlikely they can kill anyone. And they have Shivas on Magnus. Like, he's not going to die. They have a Plate Mail plus Guardian Greaves on Darkseer. He's sitting at 26 armor.
He's actually getting the Lotus.
And Anti-Mage is, he is caught up. He's almost at Alchemist territory right now.
It actually kind of screws you up, because even if you're thinking about initiating him with a Tuskar, like having that Lincoln Sphere available, even the Beastmaster, like, what are you meant to do against its Anti-Mage? You initiate in, you trigger Lincolns, then you get the Mana Style, so you got to choose which one's the real one, and by that point,
even without the Lincolns, I don't think they can kill him. If you group up on him, you're just going to get RP'd, and there's really no counterplay to that. How do you do damage to him without clumping around him? And now they have a Lotus Orb on top of that. So you're not going to be able to burst down Magnus before he's able to get his ultimate off. You can't kill Anti-Mage, and if you clump up in a team fight, you're going to die. So the only chance is to split push with Alchemist and hope for better times in the 40 to 50 minute mark of the game.
Spirit Breaker came underneath the sentry ward. There was a chance for the Juggernaut to just let the ulti go, but he knew with that Shadow Blade, if Spirit Breaker just ran himself out of vision, he wouldn't find the kill he was searching for, and that'd just blow the ultimate. EG though, it seems like they're having very, they're not quite sure if they want to go in. Roshan's up, and Monkeys has prepared themselves for this. This is probably like their last hurrah. If they can make this work, the Hawk comes in, so we'll go in Viz and get that nice little controlled vision. So this is the vision currently at the Dire side. They understand what's happening near the pit, with the shards flying into. All 5 players from EG are in here, and they're almost finished up Roshan. And Monkeys, okay. It kind of looked like they had the proper pincer, but they just decided this is not the fight to take.
They don't really have any good Roach fight abilities, aside from maybe an X-Switch Dr. Ward, but that is... He had 2,800 gold on Alk when they started the Roach, so there's no way he can get it on him in time.
That was an easy pick on Tuskar. A very, very easy pick on Tuskar. All right, Alchemist, what do you do now? What do you do with your Alchemist, with your Aghanim Scepter? They're going to concoct now on the mid, and a simple Lincoln Sphere trigger. Attempted Mana Dodge as well, but they just back up. So who's he give it to?
Yeah, I mean, Witch Doctor is right next to him.
It's the Jugger.
It's a Jug?
He actually gave it to the Juggernaut. Juggernaut just hit a level 3 ultimate as well. So they're going to try and rely on the extra bounces, give Miracle that extra strength, and if they can win this fight, potentially he can finish up the Scardy.
I mean, look at his damage, though.
However, RP on the Juggernaut, he only just got gifted it. Can he get the ulti off in time? Starts to spin, can't get it ulti just yet. Now the snowball protection, let it bounce around. Is it going to happen just yet? Well, there it is with a 4-staff out. But they're trying to retreat out. It's a little bit further, the Ice Blast just out of range. And they are actually defending this one, Monkeys.
Very nice defensive snowball coming out from Tusk to save Juggernaut from dying there. That was close.
It felt really odd with that spin. It's almost like Miracle wanted to come in and let the ulti go, but he couldn't.
I mean, technically the Ags saved him that fight. I think he wouldn't have had enough HP without that Ags. And maybe, I don't think they actually expected that on the side of EG. It's really hard to see that Scepter buff, especially when it's so newly applied. It's when you're a Dota player, you're always checking people's inventories. You're not checking their buffs unless it's maybe like, I don't know, there's not that many buffs that aren't visible directly, like TD, haste. Those are like the important things that you kind of want to see. But the Ags buff doesn't really apply any particle effects to the heroes.
Samal almost was able to get the Alchemist up on the cliffside, but now he's going to get locked in himself. The Sentry Wall is down, but he's able to force off himself out of it. Give him a little bit more room to breathe. Fortunately for him, that Bling Dagger still on cooldown, but the Shiva's Gun will buy him that space to get back into the top lane. And instantly Monkeys, they're kind of happy with this. As long as they don't lose anybody else, they push the Alchemist back down the bottom lane so he can just start farming up even more. Miracle has an isolated Anti-Mage here, but needs something else. He needs to be able to trigger off that Lincoln Sphere. But when you get a Lotus Orb up and running, there's not a lot you really want to throw out. That gem of the Witch Doctor needs to be protected. They need to keep that vision advantage, but Universe moving himself up a little bit further forward. They're trying to get a little bit more help up there. It's going to be in the snowball form. Actually, the Spirit Breaker's already managed to find and actually getting picked off himself. I should correct myself underneath that tier 3 tower. But it's the movement forward from Rabbit. It is just the movement from Sumail. Finds the pick off with the Mana Void as well. Beastmaster getting body blocked up by Universe. They need that concoction stun. But who's it really going to stun up? It's only on Sumail, and the Lotus Orb charges back on him again. So it's 24-5. EG just have all the control in the world of this.
Well, Juggernaut went a super tanky build, but that doesn't really help them necessarily win the game because they still need damage. Where's all their damage coming from? The Manta Illusions get cleaved down by the Anti-Mage really, really quickly.
It just looks almost hopeless for them. The Ice Blast flies up. At least the Alchemist is able to dodge this one, but you've got that chase happening right now. Sumail back over towards the Alchemist. He's low on life, and the Anti-Mage will drop it out. He also finished up the Butterfly, which is flying in on the Courier. So you've got a minute without the Alchemist, unless he wants to buy back in, and you kind of almost have to. If you lose a Rax up against his EG lineup in his current position, you're just going to lose the game.
Well, they do have Death Ward up. They do have Omni Slash up in just 2 seconds, so maybe they can fight with a buyback.
If Monkeys can burn off time here, this can be the greatest thing for them. They've still got the Fortification. And the creep waves to the Radiant side are a little bit too far away, so even if you do see Arteezy come in, he'll beat into this top 3 tier 3 tower. And they'll just rotate everyone up to do this, to back into a 3-man wall. The perfect timing as well from the Spirit Break, and the Ice Blast just on the edge. Monkeys will lose too. The buyback does come up from Alchemist, but what are you really going to achieve with all of this? You can't do anything. The Beastmaster getting force sliced down by Arteezy, and even with your illusions, the Alchemist, there's just nowhere to survive it. The Ancient Apparition standing his ground, but it's all up to Arteezy with a triple kill, moving back over to Miracle. The Cold Feet pushes him back into the base as well. The Beastmaster may have bought back and on the front lines, finds the kill on the Ancient Apparition, but this is just peanuts right now for Monkeys. They've expended so much money to try and defend against EG, who've just taken so much back for them. And look at Anti-Mage, he doesn't care. Like, Miracle's actually missing here too, which is not helping his cause. Even if he does have the ulti, that Lotus Orb being on the Anti-Mage means he cannot attack him.
Helps with the healing or healing up too. He still wins a man fight. He's way too fat.
Man, there is no man fight. Like, this is men versus boys at the moment. Monkeys are getting completely destroyed. The top ranks will go down. There goes your Witch Doctor. Juggernaut has to retreat back to base. It's the only safe place for him to be. You're going to lose all lanes of Raxus right now.
EG's showing why they are in championship form right now.
And GG, it is. Monkeys will realize the inevitable. The fact that this game belongs to Evil Geniuses. Just such a solid laning phase from EG, and transitioning in when you have such a solid laning phase into the big team fight initiations. Like, Universe had levels. Sumail was not even just finding it wasn't even the RPs, it was his rotations to get the early Blink Dagger up and running, and then perfect skewer timings, the Force Staff gave him the extra inch as well. It was just, I love it from EG's execution. A very different team to what we saw at ESL.
Yeah, too much free farm for Magnus. He was out CSing the early Blink Dagger, relatively early level 6 on Ancient Apparition, but I think Darkseer lane just absolutely crushed. And I don't know if it's like first land jitters for Miracle, maybe it's like the safe lane that he's not usually accustomed to, but he really did not deliver.
Yeah, but it was a really hard ask as well. Like, you want to say, come on, like,
yeah, but he has input on his hero generally. Like, you're like, oh, okay, what hero do you want Miracle to crush this game? And then, you know, if they give him an option and he doesn't like it, he can always ask for something else, and that's, you know, kind of being a lane player as well.
Yep. Well, they'll work it out over time. For now, I think we're going to throw it back over to our analysts. We're itching and ready to go to talk about our game.
Thank you so much, Toby. Back with Belk and Nahaz, of course. And gentlemen, I got to ask, as the big blue giant out of his slumber and from his winter break and ready to play, it looks like it to me.
It seems like a lot like it. I think Arteezy and Sumail especially, both putting on their big boy pants and just taking that carry train all the way to the station. Really well played by the entire lineup, obviously, but especially by the two prodigies.
Yeah, the last time we saw Sumail tagged up as B-Rabbit was in Columbus, and he played some pretty good Magnus games there, I think. And here, I mean, just really ended all doubt about what this team was going to look like coming into this weekend. Sumail looked like the old Sumail that has absolutely dominated the scene for much of this year.
Now, how much emphasis do you think it is on the lane setup that EG put out there? They put that dual lane, Universe, Darkseer, and Dr. Dre Spirit Breaker. Now, he's out of Compton. That guy could play a serious Spirit Breaker. Good for him. But in reality, it seemed like they were able to just kind of keep Miracle in check. And when you have an Alchemist already who's just trying to be so greedy and farm up, and your Juggernaut can't fight, EG's like, this is no problem. We're controlling the early game, and when the mid game comes and we're all level 6, we're going to just keep team fighting. And then you saw that huge Roche takedown. I don't think there was any stopping him from that point. Would you guys agree with that?
I mean, already from the get-go, when the score was 13-4, I was thinking, this looks pretty over already. Like, Evil Geniuses hadn't taken advantage of the fact that they won the early game so handedly. And then, despite all the farm that they had on the Alchemist, and to some extent on the Juggernaut as well, it just, throughout it all, it just looked as Evil Geniuses were in complete control.
Yeah. I thought you did a really good job in the draft talking about some of the synergies that we were seeing in the EG lineup. And to me, when you have that great team fight synergy, that great mid-game combo potential, and you just crush your lanes. I mean, Sumail and Universe just abused their lanes in this game, and when you have those two things put together, those abilities are just on display, and no team is going to take better advantage of that than EG.
And it's just one of those abilities that Sumail has, right? It's one of the reasons why they became the international champions. He is just one of the very best at abusing his lane, really just making his opponent seem like he's nothing. And that was basically what happened in this game. Really, Sumail just saying, I am on the highest level of play, and you're way down here.
Right.
Sumail always brings a high-level play. Even in their matchup against Vega ESL, he had that ridiculous 25-5 quap game. Like, you can never expect Sumail to have a bit of an off game. So he's always going to bring your A game, and you just have to be prepared and ready for it.
Let's talk, though, about Miracle for a minute, because I was really dubious on them picking the Juggernaut. They were 3-0 on Alk and 3-0 with Jug in this patch, but all 6 of those games were no-tail, playing the heroes. Miracle has never played an official before on the Juggernaut. And, these teams scrim, these players are very, very good. They know more heroes than they generally show sometimes, but I still think it's a lot to ask of the young player at his first LAN playing a hero for the first time.
It's really hit and miss for me, because I think the Juggernaut on the safe lane, you have to have your team back you up in order for you to actually snowball. And it is a hero that needs snowballing. It's not a hero like Anti-Mage that can just come back from behind and farm up and everything. You need to have those kills, that early game advantage, take down towers with the healing wards and everything. And they were just never in that position. So his performance might have looked underwhelming, but it was also a huge result of the draft and how they played out the early game, and the fact that they were just never in a position to do anything with that Juggernaut. There was no early game pressure, there was no synergy, and the game had already been lost from the laning stage.
Yeah, I would agree. By the way, you mentioned the word snowball, and it's a very small thing about EG's play, but I thought they did it really well. There were a couple big fights, including the first big engagement around 10 minutes at top lane, where I felt like they baited the snowball out of Tusk, and that's something that there's a reason that Tusk is the most picked hero in this patch. That hero can absolutely short circuit a team fight combo like we're talking about with the snowball. I thought they did a very good job of playing around that particular ability in this match.
It was after that gank that Sumail quickly went to the mid lane and then got a kill on the Alchemist after. Just a heads-up play. It's like, we got work done here. We're looking for the next objective right thereafter, and it was
and that's
so
like,
impressive.
he just bound that entire early game together for them, and then getting that early blink dagger was basically over from there. From there on out, they couldn't go anywhere on the map, and you saw Evil Geniuses were allowed to 4- and 5-man gank heroes from Monkey Business all on their own. Like, Monkey Business didn't even react to it. They were still caught in the lanes, despite it being a 5-man gang. That's just how far out of control that game was. The fact that they are even allowed to dedicate 5 man to it and then go down and take a tower.
Hashtag Sumail fix, right? That's all we need to say, because I had this stat and a lot of people were really skeptical, where Sumail is actually one of the most static players for the first 15 minutes of the game, but then by minute 30, he's in the top 10 players in terms of his movement around the map. And a lot of people had said, well, he plays a lot of games on Quap. He plays a lot of games on Storm. It's the mobile heroes. Guys, it's not just the mobile heroes.
Well, to be fair, Magnus is a very mobile hero as well. Like, when you get a Blink Dagger, you have Skewer already, and then you get a Force Staff. It's almost like a Queen of Pain.
But still, it's not just the individual abilities giving him that mobility, it's the TP ganks. It's just being on the right spot on the map. And I think, a lot of us praise Sumail's technical skills in lane. I really think, especially for a young player, his overall map awareness is phenomenal.
Now, I'm hearing that we do have a highlight we can check out here. It's going to be the Ben Q best moment of that matchup. So why don't we go ahead and check it out, and you can see exactly what went down here.
This is a great play, all set up by Sumail having the early Blink Dagger. So we're seeing just before the 10 minutes here. Okay, we're going to pan to the top lane in just a second. All right, Sumail's coming up with the haster, and he blinks forward, first blink. He's chasing the Witch Doctor down in lane, so they're going to try to kill the Witch Doctor first. Gets the Skewer off. He's going to bait the snowball here, go back a little bit. He knows he has Fear charging on the backside, initiating with the Spirit Breaker. They get the kill on the Witch Doctor. Nice healing ward micro from Miracle up in the trees to keep himself alive. He gets the spin off as Sumail commits the RP, but then the second and now just about to be the third blinks from Sumail in this fight. He's getting so much value out of that item. They're going to get the kill here, and we're going to see right after the fight. All right, so patience to bait the snowball yet again.
Boom.
And after the kill here, Sumail is going to
hey.
go TP to the mid lane and get yet another kill on the Alchemist
this.
before he commits his Radiance.
Not done yet, boys. Moves right in and gets a sweet pickoff right there, and that is just soul crushing if you're Monkey Business at that point. And I think that was the tipping point of that.
That was really well played by Sumail, but you actually saw the individual skill level of Miracle. His healing ward positioning kept him alive for a long time. Perfect Blade Fury right as RP hits. He actually did what he could do in order to survive. So again, it's definitely not a question of whether Miracle has the skill to back it up. It's rather that the team and the strategy needs to be cohesive and for them to actually come together as a unit the same way Evil Geniuses just did in this game.
All right, and so with that, we are going to be cutting to a bit of a break here. They wanted me to let you know that the break might be a little bit longer as they are going to quickly resolve some of those tech issues, but then we'll be back for Game 2 of Evil Geniuses going against Monkey Business. We'll see you soon.